poor farmer found a lost wallet. His honesty made him a millionaire. Part 1, about 3 minutes. Nobody believed that honesty could change a poor man's life anymore. But on one cold autumn evening, a farmer named Thomas was about to prove everyone wrong. What happened after he found a stranger's wallet became one of the most unbelievable stories his town had ever witnessed. And the ending would leave people questioning whether kindness really does come back when you least expect it. Thomas lived in a tiny wooden farmhouse on the edge of a forgotten village. Every morning before sunrise, he walked miles to his small field, carrying old farming tools that had belonged to his late father. The land was dry. The harvest had been terrible for 2 years in a row. Every season seemed to bring another disaster. His wife, Mary, carefully counted every coin before buying bread. Sometimes she skipped dinner so their 2 young children could eat a little more. Yet Thomas never complained. Every evening he looked at his family and said the same words. "As long as we're together, tomorrow can always be better." Deep inside, however, he wondered how many more tomorrows they could survive. One afternoon, after selling a basket of vegetables for only a few dollars, Thomas slowly walked home along an old dirt road surrounded by golden fields. His boots were worn out. His stomach was empty. He was thinking about how to pay for Mary's medicine before winter arrived. Suddenly, something dark caught his eye beside the road. It was a thick brown leather wallet. Thomas looked around. The road was completely empty. No horses, no cars, no people. Only the wind moving through the tall grass. His heart started beating faster. He picked up the wallet and carefully opened it. His eyes grew wide. Inside were neat stacks of $100 bills. There were so many that his hands began to shake. He had never held that much money before, not even close. There were also several credit cards, an expensive watch receipt, and one business card with a single name. William Carter. Thomas whispered to himself, "This money could feed my family for years." For the first time in his life, temptation whispered louder than hope. He imagined buying warm clothes for his children, repairing the roof, paying every debt, taking Mary to the best doctor in the city. No one had seen him pick up the wallet. No one would ever know. He closed his eyes. For several long seconds, he simply stood there, fighting the hardest battle of his life. Then he remembered something his father had taught him when he was only 10 years old. A poor man who keeps his honesty is richer than a dishonest man with all the money in the world. Thomas slowly took a deep breath. His decision was made. "I'm going to find the owner," just as he slipped the wallet safely into his jacket. A black luxury SUV suddenly appeared from around the corner and stopped only a few feet away. The driver's door opened. 2 men in expensive suits stepped out. Neither of them looked friendly. One of them stared directly at Thomas. Then he asked in a cold voice, "Where did you get that wallet?" Thomas's heart pounded as the 2 men walked toward him. The taller man pointed at the wallet. "Answer me, where did you get it?" Thomas swallowed nervously, but kept his voice calm. "I found it on the road just a few minutes ago." The 2 men exchanged suspicious glances. "That's convenient," the shorter man said with a smirk. "People usually don't carry someone else's wallet unless they plan to keep it." Thomas slowly removed the wallet from his jacket. "I was looking for the owner." The taller man grabbed the wallet and quickly counted the money inside. Nothing was missing, not a single dollar. His expression changed for just a second before becoming serious again. "Come with us," he ordered. Thomas hesitated. "I have done nothing wrong." "Then you have nothing to fear." Unsure what else to do, Thomas climbed into the SUV. As they drove toward the city, his mind raced with worry. Who was William Carter? Why were these men acting like bodyguards? And why did finding one wallet suddenly feel so dangerous? Nearly an hour later, the SUV stopped in front of a breathtaking mansion, surrounded by iron gates and beautiful gardens. Thomas had never seen a house so large. Inside, everything sparkled: marble floors, crystal chandeliers, priceless paintings. Waiting in the grand living room stood an elderly man dressed in a simple navy suit. Despite the luxury around him, his face looked tired and deeply concerned. The taller guard stepped forward. "Mr. Carter, we found your wallet." The old man's eyes immediately turned to Thomas. "So, you're the man who found it?" Thomas nodded quietly. "I was trying to return it." William Carter accepted the wallet and slowly opened it. He counted the cash. Every bill was still there. He checked the cards. Nothing was missing. For a long moment, complete silence filled the room. Then something unexpected happened. The billionaire smiled. It was the first genuine smile anyone in the house had seen in days. "My young man," he said softly, "do you know how many people have lied to me because of money?" Thomas shook his head. "I've spent my entire life building businesses," William continued. "I've met thousands of people. Many wanted my wealth. Very few valued their own integrity." He looked directly into Thomas's eyes. "You could have disappeared with this wallet." Thomas answered without hesitation. "The money wasn't mine." William slowly nodded. "I hoped you would say exactly that." Then he surprised everyone in the room. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a checkbook. "I'm giving you $50,000. Thomas's eyes widened. "No, sir. I can't accept that." William smiled again. "I wasn't asking." Just as he began writing the check, a woman's angry voice echoed through the mansion. "Father, what are you doing?" Everyone turned. A well-dressed woman hurried into the room, followed by two sharply dressed businessmen. She stared at Thomas with open disgust. "You're giving money to a farmer you met 5 minutes ago?" William calmly closed the checkbook. "This farmer has more honesty than most executives in this company." The woman's face darkened. "You don't even know who he really is." She stepped closer to Thomas and whispered coldly, "If I were you, I'd leave now." Thomas suddenly realized returning the wallet had pulled him into a wealthy family's dangerous secret. And someone inside that mansion clearly didn't want him there. Thomas looked from William Carter to the angry woman standing in front of him. The room had suddenly become painfully quiet. William sighed. "Thomas, this is my daughter, Victoria." Victoria folded her arms. "My father is too trusting. People see his kindness and take advantage of him." Thomas respectfully shook his head. "I don't want your money, ma'am. I only wanted to return what belonged to your father." Without another word, he turned toward the front door. But before he could leave, William called out, "Please, stay for dinner." Thomas hesitated. He had never eaten in a mansion before. After a long pause, he nodded. During dinner, William asked Thomas about his life. The farmer spoke honestly about the failed harvests, his sick wife, and the struggle to feed his children. He never asked for help. He never complained. He simply told the truth. William listened carefully. The billionaire couldn't remember the last time someone had spoken to him without expecting something in return. Meanwhile, Victoria watched silently from across the table. Something about Thomas bothered her. He seemed impossible to manipulate. The next morning, William surprised everyone again. "I have a proposal," he said. "I need someone I can trust more than someone with experience." He looked directly at Thomas. "I want you to manage one of my farms." Thomas nearly dropped his coffee. "Sir, I've never managed a business." William smiled. "I can teach business." He paused. "But I can't teach honesty." Thomas accepted the opportunity. Over the following months, everything changed. He worked harder than anyone else. He treated every worker with respect. Instead of cutting costs by lowering wages, He found better farming methods. The harvest became the largest the company had seen in years. Employees who had planned to quit stayed because they trusted him. Profits continued to grow. For the first time in a long time, William's agricultural business flourished. But success also exposed something unexpected. One evening, the company accountant rushed into William's office carrying several folders. "Sir, we've found missing money." Millions of dollars had disappeared over several years. Someone inside the company had been secretly stealing from William. The investigation uncovered fake contracts, forged signatures, hidden bank accounts. And every trail led to one person: Victoria. William closed his eyes in disbelief. My own daughter. She had spent years blaming employees while quietly stealing from the family business. When confronted with the evidence, Victoria finally confessed. She had believed the company would eventually become hers anyway. Police arrested her that same afternoon. As she was led away, she looked at Thomas with tears in her eyes. "If you had kept that wallet..." "None of this would have happened," Thomas quietly replied. "No. It happened because everyone eventually faces the truth." Months later, William announced his retirement. To the shock of investors and executives, he appointed Thomas as the new president of the agricultural company. Reporters couldn't believe it. "A poor farmer becomes CEO?" William answered with a smile. "I didn't choose the richest man. I chose the most trustworthy one." Under Thomas's leadership, the company expanded into new regions, helping thousands of struggling farmers with modern equipment, fair prices, and free training. Families who had once faced poverty now had hope again. Thomas never forgot where he came from. He repaired his small farmhouse, but refused to tear it down. Every Sunday, he and Mary returned there with their children for dinner. It reminded them that wealth had not changed who they were. Years later, a young reporter asked Thomas one question. "What was the best investment you ever made?" Thomas smiled. "I never invested that wallet. I invested my honesty. And it gave my family a future money a loan could never buy. Because sometimes, the greatest fortune doesn't begin with finding money. It begins with making the right choice when no one is watching."